previamente en Sesiones con Alejandro Franco.
Es un placer darles la bienvenida de nueva cuenta a Sesiones. El día de hoy justo es el mid-season de esta sexta temporada del programa. Al inicio del show vieron algo de lo que ya ocurrió previamente en los capítulos anteriores de esta SesioneS 6, de esta sexta temporada. Y a lo largo del programa vamos a recordar no solamente momentos de esta temporada, sino momentos anteriores de los 5 años que han pasado para que ocurra este show, ya que ya revisamos lo que va de esta sexta. Y al final les vamos a dar un preview de lo que nos falta por cerrar en esta sexta ocasión, este sexto esfuerzo de hacer este programa, que estoy seguro que ustedes disfrutan tanto como nosotros que lo hacemos. Yo soy Alejandro Franco, les doy la más cordial bienvenida. Hoy tenemos un proyecto de Nuevo México. Él se llama Condon, formó una banda de una manera muy particular que la vamos a platicar al ratito en la entrevista, y los dejo con Beirut.
I left a bag of bones, a trail of stones, for to find my way home now. And as the air grows cold, the trees unfold, and I'm lost and not found now. And to know who and to I left a bag of bones, a trail of stones, for to find my way home now. And as the air grows cold, the trees unfold, and I'm lost and not found now. Well, as the air grows cold, the trees unfold, and I've been lost a long time now.
Seguimos en sesión, estoy con Zach Condon de Beirut, que bueno, pues es el creador del proyecto. Zach, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's a great honor to have you here.
Cheers, cheers.
So, how are you? How do you feel with this acceptance of Beirut in a lot of parts of the world?
I was surprised. Of course, I was surprised. You have to remember that the project started in my bedroom. I had nothing but portable recording equipment. And throughout my teens, I was writing these songs, and I just never even imagined that I knew what I was doing. And so any response has always been bizarre at best. Like, I really just can't wrap my head around that.
That's why I was asking, because I imagine that you didn't realize what you were doing at the early
I had no idea. It started in such a private place, so intensely private. I was an insomniac teenager who happened to record late into the night, completely by myself, trying to just associate new instruments into the music constantly, and I really had no idea what I was doing.
When did you realize that every little piece in the project went to run correctly?
I had a girlfriend at the time who forced me to
It's
play...
always about the girls.
I know, right? She forced me to play my first show, as well as, at the time, make a MySpace page.
Okay.
Which I hadn't even heard of. I'm still completely computer illiterate.
Okay.
Like, I know like 3 websites online, that's it.
And that's it.
Outside of email, yeah. And so she kind of forced me to like put her out there. I mean, she was hearing it and she was saying, it's decent. I think people will like it.
Yes.
And so almost begrudgingly, I said, okay, sure.
I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it. Mm-hmm. And then it didn't take long. I think it was about a year later that the first album came out.
And then how did you form the band? How was it?
Really fast and really sloppy. The first record was already written and recorded and it was going to be released. And the guy running the label literally called me up and said, we need you to play a show. Do you have a band? I said, no. And he said, well, you have 3 weeks to make one. Okay. And actually, except for the 2 brass players that you'll see tonight, the 4 of us are the original 4, the people that I met in New Mexico. I literally, one of the guys I met scooping ice cream at a Haagen-Dazs ice cream shop as a teenager, because we were both high school dropouts and both loved music, and he played cello at the time and I played trumpet, and that was very weird for New Mexico. Of course. So after that, I went to the local college and grabbed a couple art students, film students, that kind of thing, who play bass and drums, and we just went for it. I mean, what else are you supposed to do? And it worked out. It worked out beautifully, as far as I'm concerned. I'm very happy with the band.
How's the music scene in New Mexico?
It's weird. I mean, obviously there's a lot of norteño, there's a lot of mariachi, and then on the other side of that spectrum, actually most of the local scene is a lot of like hardcore metal. At the time, when in the 90s, when I was a teenager, emo. Okay. And so I just never really fit in with anything local that was going on.
There wasn't any local inspiration then?
No, not at the time. It's funny because later down the road I realized that things were going on around me, but very quietly at the time, that exploded in different ways. The Shins, Neutral Milk Hotel actually was there at the time because Jeremy Barnes was one of the guys who kind of introduced me to the music world after I played a show with him. So it's funny to think that it was there, I just didn't know where to look for it. But overwhelmingly, like I said, it was one of those 4 things.
And when was your first gig then with the band?
With the band?
Yes.
We played the College of Santa Fe.
Okay.
In Santa Fe. I must have been, well, I guess I was 19 years old then. So that would have been 2006. And we played to maybe 30 or 40 people, because the next day we were driving to Austin, Texas to play South by Southwest, which is a pretty big festival.
Of course, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, and
I love to go there every year.
And so if you can imagine how nerve-wracking it was to go from like 30 or 40 people in like the equivalent of like a small coffee shop in Santa Fe to like this official festival that like people from all over the world go to.
Yeah, and besides South by Southwest is like Afghanistan. I mean, you have to bring your own, like Beirut maybe in some age. You have to bring your own equipment and...
We took my father's like van to Austin. I mean, we just drove from Santa Fe, and it was such the weirdest experience to just get thrown into everything so quickly. So I'm thankful, obviously, and I'm glad that we had to have such a sharp like learning curve.
Yes, of course.
I'm happy for it, but it was crazy, yeah.
And then you have a lot of influences from everywhere. I mean, from the Balkans, from Mexico, from France. How did you start to meet those kind of influences? Because I think that traveling is one thing that moves you for real.
For sure, for sure. Well, going back to Santa Fe, remember I was saying there's these 4 styles of music that you're either involved in or not. I obviously wanted to make music, but I just felt like I didn't belong to any particular culture in Santa Fe.
Yes.
Like, imagine like a culturally confused teenager. Where do I belong? I really don't know. And so what ended up happening, in hindsight, it's clear to see, was my mind just went into daydream mode. And through cinema and other things, I just fell in love with music from all over the world because I had no culture to call my own at the time. And so I just, when I hear a melody I like, it doesn't matter where it comes from. It's never been an issue for me. It's always just, ooh, that's really pretty. Can I replicate it in a way that's unique in my own?
Okay.
And so, yeah, of course, when I dropped out of high school, I spent a lot of time traveling around Europe and things like that. But as my brother put it really well recently, it wasn't so much like I was on some quest for music. I was probably just drinking and chasing girls around. But it did leave...
Like everyone.
Yeah, of course. I mean, what are you supposed to do when you're 17, 18?
Of course.
That's what you got to do. But it obviously left an impression on me, and that just never changed.
Did you ever imagine to end, make music for a living?
There was some part of me in the back of my head that knew that was the only thing I would truly be happy doing and truly fulfilled doing.
Were you studying something else before dropout?
Yeah, I was trying to study Portuguese. And I speak French fairly fluently.
Okay.
And I wanted to study Portuguese because I thought, hell, if music doesn't work, then at least I can do something in translating language, something like that, because I think language is really beautiful. But I don't know, like I said, there's always the piece in the back of my mind that was saying, somehow, some way, this will work.
Okay.
I don't know.
Have you ever been in Beirut, actually?
No, it's actually kind of sad. We've been offered 3 times now, in 3 different periods of time, over the course of 6-7 years, to go to Beirut. And every single time we're in contact, everything's about to go through, and then something breaks out.
I went a couple of years ago, and I have to tell that it's amazing.
Yeah.
You have to go.
Yeah.
For sure, you will take something,
I know,
a new sound from there.
I would be so excited to.
Tell me about the Oaxaca experience.
So we were there for 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And we were staying in Teotihuacan del Valle, Weaver's village. I don't know
the whole band or only?
No, it was just me, the accordion player, the guy I met scooping ice cream.
Okay.
And our producer, Griffin Rodriguez.
Okay.
And we went down there basically with a few demos of songs, and we're introduced to a 19-piece brass band in this small town, and they play everything from weddings to funerals to quinceañeras.
Yes.
And I think, as far as I can tell, are just run through the local word of mouth, blah, blah, blah. And our first day there was a disaster. 19 people assemble in front of us. They're all amazing people. But I
just get there with the idea of...
I had a few ideas.
Okay.
As in, I had written a thing or two on accordion. I had a trumpet melody in mind. But they actually pride themselves on reading music more than improvising, learning by ear, which I didn't know about them at the time. So we spent the next 3 nights staying up till like 6 in the morning, writing out actual charts, which I'd never done before. So that was interesting, yeah.
And how was it with the Spanish?
The funny thing is, there in that town, we had a translator because my Spanish isn't horrible. You can speak it at me, but I might not be able to respond.
Okay,
in
I
Spanish.
get you. Yeah.
I definitely, I mean,
But you
growing
understand
up
it.
around Spanglish in New Mexico is like...
It's the
messes
same with
your
me
head.
and my English, don't worry.
Yeah, yeah. But the funny thing was most people there actually in the band spoke Zapotec, not Spanish.
Wow.
So we would say like, "Estoy grabando," and then he would have to shout it out in Zapotec real quick.
Zapotec.
And, yeah.
Wow. Wow, what an experience,
Yeah,
I have to
it's
say.
crazy. Yeah.
And, well, let me go to a commercial break and be
Sure.
right back.
Okay.
Bueno, vamos a un corte y regresamos con más. Estamos platicando con Zach de Beirut. Regresamos con Zach de Beirut aquí a Sesiones. Thanks a lot for being here in the show again.
Yeah.
And how did you adapt the music of your albums to the live shows? Or
Like I was saying earlier, it was it started from nothing. It started from just myself. Actually, the very first Beirut show I ever played was me with a laptop playing an instrumental on iTunes of the songs
like
I'd
your
recorded.
first gigs?
My first gig
By
ever,
your own?
by myself, yeah.
Yes.
So to adapt it live was a very interesting situation, to say the least.
Yeah, like a good challenge.
No, but that's what I love about it, is every time I write an album, I don't hold back. I don't say like, oh, there's no way we could do that live. I always just go for it. But it's such a fun experience to get these guys in the practice room, in the studio, to figure out how to do it live before a tour. We spend 2 or 3 months just figuring out how to do a song live. And it's actually one of my favorite processes. It's one of the things that I never knew I would be doing.
Okay.
Because of the way I started, I assumed I would have to go it alone forever.
Yes.
It just happens that these guys really agree with me and really agree with where I'm trying to go. And so it's always been a very entertaining experience to just think of these songs put on their head. Loud songs become quiet, quiet songs become loud, slow, fast, fast, slow, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from that moment to now, how is the creative process? I mean, did you establish a democracy, or are you still doing everything?
We jokingly refer to it as a benign dictatorship.
Some kind of.
Things on tour are split very evenly as far as responsibilities, etc., yes. and figuring out how to play the music live and to do it. But definitely when we get back into the studio, it starts. All the music and demos will come from me, and then we'll change slightly once we get to arranging with the rest of the band.
But I have the sense that when you decide to do a new album, you start from zero.
Yes.
Because every album is very different.
Yeah.
And which is the moment when you have to take the decisions for that album in specific? Because it's like, they're like conceptual albums for me.
Yeah.
Kind of with the sound.
Well, it comes from a place of fear and loneliness. No, but it's true. I mean, it's every songwriter, writer, you name an art field, and everyone has to deal with this. You got the blank sheet of paper in front of you,
yes,
metaphorically or whatever. And honestly, I have no good answer to that. It's always how it's going to be. There's always going to be this period where you don't know what you want yourself to be presented to the world as at that moment. And that's always this really scary thing. The hardest thing is learning to accept what you, like your initial timid footsteps into some direction, is you can't be so harsh on yourself. So I don't know if I'm skirting,
it's like an organic evolution.
Issue, but yeah.
Yeah, like you feel it that way and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you aware of new music, for example?
Yeah, definitely.
Because you have a lot of influences from everywhere. We already say that. But I want to know about the new music that you're hearing.
It would be ridiculous for me not to be aware of what's going on right now. There are musicians playing music right now at this moment, writing new albums that I absolutely love.
Because there's also a lot of songwriters that don't like, to hear new music.
I can understand that if you're like in the studio, to not want to hear like what's coming at that moment, because then you feel like you're in competition with something going on.
Of course, yeah.
But it'd be stupid. It would be foolish not to listen to what's actually going on around you, especially if you live in a place like we do in Brooklyn. Like it's just we're so involved in the music world as a city. Well, not a small city at all, but
no, but Brooklyn right now is like one of the most important scenes in new music in the world,
and that's exciting. That's stimulating. That drives us on. I like to think that to an extent. Some of our friends have even given us a kind of friendly competition, like, hey, my album did really great this year.
Yes.
What are you going to do next? And that's not a bad thing. I didn't get that in Santa Fe because I was alone.
Of course.
And I love that about Brooklyn.
Yeah, there's no appropriate competition, but then you have some feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, from your partners. So when you go to festivals, do you have time to see another bands?
No, it's hilarious actually. There's a very popular European festival circuit every summer, and it's almost like it's like Brooklyn musicians summer camp, because we're running into the same 5 bands over and over and over again at every major festival in Europe. And at some point, you just have to become friends.
Yes.
Because you see each other all the time in faraway places.
So you have the whole neighborhood alone, empty. Brooklyn, a ghost town.
Brooklyn everyone you know in Brooklyn is now in Poland one day, and then Germany the next, and then France the next, and every single time it's just like, this is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, yes, it is, but it's awesome. Yeah.
And so you don't have any time to go and see maybe, I don't know, like classic stuff from another stages?
I definitely do. And we make a good point of doing that, just out of early on when I started touring as a musician, I agreed to do a show every single day, press all day, just everything. I agreed to everything because I just couldn't believe people wanted to hear me. But in the last 3 years, I've started kind of cutting down on what I've agreed to. So we now have days off in cities where I would just like to be on tour. And because of that, we're able to finally, take in the world a little bit and not just see it pass by out of the bus window.
It must be very difficult, to change your life that way.
Yeah.
I mean, like the daily days, how do you take that? I mean, there's a lot of responsibility also with yourself.
Yeah. You got to take care of yourself, otherwise you're going to fall apart. It's just most people in the music industry are probably thrown into it without fully knowing what's going to happen to them, what's going to happen to their lives. I really don't think anyone can fully prepare you by just sitting you down and saying, it's going to feel like this. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. No, everyone has to go through the same experience, which is really crazy. And it's such an intense thing, and your life changed changes so drastically that there's just no way.
It's almost traumatic.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes, and I think that the cliche of musicians being aloof and drunk and all sorts of things come out of this fact that they're being thrown into a world that no one can fully explain to you.
Totally.
No one can prepare you for.
And everyone's perception about you change.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, with your friends, maybe your family.
And you get phone calls from kids in high school
Yes.
saying, "Hey, buddy, what are you doing?" Yeah. So no, the whole thing is very weird, and I don't think anyone is, as much as people would hate to admit it, I don't think anyone is truly prepared for that.
Yeah, I totally get you.
Yeah.
And what about, you told me about MySpace, so you once opened a MySpace.
Once upon a time. Yeah.
Are you aware of social networks like
I
Twitter,
don't have
Facebook?
a Facebook. I don't have a Twitter. I don't have any of the other stuff.
And you don't have any time for that, actually.
No, not really. But I'm actually glad, because I feel like everything else in my life moves so fast that would just add to the stress.
Yeah.
So why bother?
But you are aware also about those things in the band. I mean, like the web page, you know, to take care of the fans and the people
It's
writing.
necessary to touch in, and you know, I usually make it a point, for example, unless I'm like sick or exhausted or something.
Yes.
After shows, I always go outside to see who's still there after 45
Wow,
minutes to
that's nice.
an hour. And it's just something I've done since I was 19 and continue to do. I just can't not do it, because I don't want to feel disconnected from what's giving me this life. So I don't, you know, even though I might not be answering emails on Facebook or something, I am out there.
You also have a side project, like by your own, like more electronic. What's the name? Real People?
Real People. It's actually what came before Beirut.
Okay.
When I released the March of the Zaptec EP, I felt like it was short, and it would be fun for people to have some background information on Beirut as a whole. And so that entire EP was me showing them what I used to do when I was 15, 16, 17
Yes.
years old.
Like the first and original thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's actually what that entire EP is.
Okay.
So.
Zach, thanks a lot for being here on the show.
thank
I
you.
really appreciate it, and I wish you a lot of luck, because you are a true artist, and we can feel it in your music, and a true person, and I like that. Thanks a lot for this chat.
Thanks.
Well,
Cheers.
and this is your home, whenever you want to come.
I like that.
Bueno, Beirut, aquí en Sesiones, seguimos con más.
And your days in one, and this day undone, the cannabis under, and all day at once. For me, for you, but I'm just too young. So what am I? This day was once silently full of grace of lost. I can't wait at all. I can't wait at all. Temptations on. Whatever comes through your door, you see her face to face, all about your place. So send me your Santa Fe, call your son. Send me your Santa Fe. You're on the cross, Santa Fe. No, I won't. Send me your Santa Fe.
This is Zach Condon of Beirut, and you are watching SesioneS with Alex Franco.
You're on fire, this time you rise so fast. They've gone before, stood by your door all day. For what it's worth, defend your kind from shame. The lights are down, go on inside they've paid. And you're the face in stone. Who the are and you never found it home. You're not the girl I used to know. Oh, would you hide from such a glow? If I had only told you so. You're on fire, it's time you run over. They've gone before to buy your door all day. And you never found the home. Fair price I pay to be alone. Oh, would you hide from such a glow? If I had only told you so.
Estamos llegando ya al final de este mid-season de sesiones. Le quiero agradecer, como siempre, a toda la gente que nos acompaña aquí, a ustedes que nos siguieron. Y en especial el día de hoy le quiero agradecer muchísimo a una promotora mexicana que nos ayudó mucho para que esta sesión ocurriera, que es 1111. Les pido un aplauso bien fuerte a 1111 porque nos apoyaron mucho y además están trayendo buenos shows a México y espero que algún día lo hagan al resto de Latinoamérica. Aprovecho, hablando de Latinoamérica, para mandarle un abrazo grande a todos los que nos siguen en toda la región, en pues, cualquier país de Latinoamérica y también en Estados Unidos, donde también ya llega la señal de sesiones. La página de internet www.sesionesconalejandrofranco.com. Yo soy Alejandro Franco, hasta la próxima y los dejo de nueva cuenta con Beirut.
She wasn't ever obliged to lift me or buckle or rise, and once her eyes covered with flies, the pain she no longer disguised. When those eyes were our resting tide, never to ignite. Well, there was once a time we sighed, it was the stolen line to the market left right. How long she's been by my side, we'll let her rest or stay between nights. Thank you guys so much. Gracias, gracias.
Próximamente en Sesiones con Alejandro Franco.